Hello. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Let's give it up one more time for that great premiere episode for Welcome to Chippendales. As you can see, this is a bit of a change of pace for this gentleman we're going to speak with tonight who, I mean, if he weren't so nice, he would be annoying because he's good at too many things, right? Stand-up comedy, writing, acting, producing. What am I missing? He's an Academy Award nominee. I don't need to list the credits. The Big Sick, Silicon Valley, Eternals. He's part of the Star Wars universe. I hate this man, but I love him too. Let's give a big New York welcome to Kumail Nanjiani.
Hi, thank you. How's everyone doing? Individually, one at a time.
Welcome.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you guys. Welcome to a live edition of Happy Sad Confused. We love doing these live at 92 NY. Last time you were on the podcast, Kumail, it was my dingy little office. So we're trying to spruce it up a little bit, give some love.
You've done a great job. I mean, this is a gorgeous space.
Thank you.
This is your office now?
You like what I did with the place?
Yeah. Which way does your desk face, there or there?
I like to face this way so
Yeah.
I can see nothing. I do need to get my Vigo the Carpathian poster in this space, though. I miss it. I miss it terribly. Sadly, Kumail did not agree to do the Chippendales dance on the way out. I thought we agreed to that.
Well, my parents are here, so...
He's telling the truth, guys. His parents are here. Let's
Yeah.
give it up for Kumail Nanjiani's parents.
No, oh. Was that the secret word to
Yeah.
get the lights working?
Yes.
Kumail Nanjiani's parents was the password?
Yeah, and it never works in other contexts with other guests, but
No.
finally it works today.
Right. Chris Evans was like, why are you talking about his parents?
I did have the unique privilege of witnessing a back and forth. I don't want to reveal secrets, but you did just talk to your parents about this show. I don't know if you've talked to them a lot since they've seen the show. Is it a little nerve-wracking because this is a different, darker Kumail than they're used to seeing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've seen a lot of different sides of Kumail.
Oh, sure. On screen.
They were there day one. So they've seen all of it. Yeah, it was very sweet. They love the show. They watch it as soon as it comes out. So when I was telling my parents, like today's Thursday, I was like, I don't know if you've seen episode 4. They're like, oh, we've seen it. They see it as soon as it comes out. It's very sweet. And my mom told me, she's like, I just have a hard time watching you going through difficulty. So it's like and I was like, I'll strap in, it gets worse. But I just love that they watch the show and love it. So thank you for watching it. And even though it's maybe not something that they would have watched if I wasn't in it.
Right. Who would think that a show set in the 80s in a strip club would be sordid at all, that there would be darkness to it? You would think that would just be sweetness all around, right?
Right. No closets, no skeletons in those closets.
Exactly. But okay, let's get one of the narratives out of the way, because I think, like myself, I was victim to this. A lot of people were victim to this. When they heard that you were in a Chippendale show, they're like, okay, let's put 2 and 2 together. We know Kumail's now in this crazy shape, Chippendales, but you went the other way in this.
Yeah, I decided to be the only one not taking my clothes off.
So there's just to spoil it, I've seen the entire show, it's great. Episode 4, there's no dream sequence where Steve is suddenly buff. That's not coming.
Actually, Rob, the creator, is here, and for a while, right at the end, there was going to be a dream sequence where Steve like dances on the Chippendale stage.
Oh, really?
I fought it.
But we've seen your dance moves in Eternals. You've got it.
Yeah, I think that's enough for everybody.
No.
I think that's more than enough. I don't think anybody wants more of that.
No, I focus grouped it in the Horowitz family. We all need it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Horowitzes are on board?
Yeah,
or the
we're on board.
Nanjianis are thrilled I'm not doing it?
Steve, as this audience can tell, for those that have been watching the show, he's kind of a miserable guy. He's not comfortable in his own skin. He's not happy with his life. He's seeking the American dream, and he's making every wrong choice imaginable. Why are you subjecting yourself to this headspace for 6 months, I would imagine, of shooting?
Yeah, it was a long time. Well, I want to ask, how many people was that the first time that you watched that episode? Okay, so for a lot of people. Great, I'm glad we showed the first episode.
Yeah.
it's. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please keep watching it because it really. Thank you.
There we go. Yeah.
It really gets more and more intense as it goes. I just never gotten to play a character like this. I get to play. Listen, I have a very charmed life. I get to play like fun, funny characters, like in Eternals, that job, I had a great time. That was a very easy job for me. I just had to, everyone else was crying and screaming at the heavens, and I was like, just shooting things from my fingers.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
And you've literally been studying for that your entire life.
My entire life, since I was a little kid, I was preparing to be in Eternals, really was.
Yeah.
And so it's been really, really fun. But when this came along, I was like, first of all, I want to thank Rob Siegel, the creator of this show, who thought that I could do this. I don't get these opportunities, and he was like, I think you can do this. So him having confidence in me made me want to do it. My favorite shows aren't comedies. My favorite shows are like very dark things.
Right.
Like, I think a lot about, Breaking Bad is one of my favorite shows, one of everybody's favorite shows. And I was like, if I get a chance to do my own version of Breaking Bad in 8 episodes instead of, however many seasons they did, I was like, I can't pass it up. And genuinely, one of my heroes is Robin Williams. My parents can attest to that. Since I was a kid, I watched the Popeye movie over and over. I did. I watched everything, Mrs. Doubtfire, everything.
Sure.
And then later in his career, he started expanding and doing these really dark characters.
1 Hour Photo, Insomnia, come on.
Amazing
Yeah.
performances, right?
Yeah.
And you wouldn't believe that same guy would be able to do that. So I was like, I owe it to myself to at least try and follow in the footsteps of the people who've inspired me. So I was like, I have to try and do it. And then, plus the story was just too cool, too interesting, too unpredictable for me to not try and do it.
I resisted everything I could to not read the Wikipedia entry as I started watching the show.
So you didn't.
I
you didn't. So please, don't read the Wikipedia entry. Don't do that. Just go. My mom's already Googled it. She told me sitting in there because I was like, it's gonna get worse. She's like, I went on Google. So please, just or if you do, it's fine. But I think it's fun to watch it and see it happen as the show sort of unfolds.
So, okay, how much of this kind of challenge, this I would argue the biggest challenge of your acting career, is proving to yourself you can do it, and how much of it is proving to others that you can do it?
Wow, what a question! Oh my God. I don't know if I can differentiate those two. I'll tell you, I've been doing a solid press tour for 5 weeks, and nobody's asked me that.
I finally outed Terry Gross. She made you cry, but I broke your brain.
I can't believe she didn't take that out. That's in there?
Yeah, it's in there.
Okay. God damn it. Take this out. Fuck Terry Gross. Take this out. She was lovely. She really loved the show too. I always feel, honestly, it was that, that Emily and Rob and Jenny and all the other writers thought that I could do it, made me believe I could do it. And then at some point, when I started the filming, I didn't know for sure. I was like, I have to jump into the pool and just see what happens. Yeah. And I knew, the stories get more intense as the season goes, and Steve, my character, sort of gets darker as it goes. So I knew that the water was going to be raised slowly. So I was like, I just want to be able to do these first 2 episodes.
Right.
And then once those were done, I was like, I just want to be able to do the next 2. And I figured that the scripts would kind of carry me through. But there was a certain point where it did become like, okay, I know I can do this. I can finish out this season. I'm excited to do this. And then part of it is, I do want other people to see me in a different light, because you can, for many, many years, I just played a nerd. I had to work out like a maniac for 2 years to get the opportunity to play a normal guy.
Go to the extreme, not
no.
a little bit, go to the other end.
I had to go to the other end to be like, okay, now I guess you can play a family man. That's what it took. To unglue my fingers from a keyboard. Right. That's what it took. So I was excited for people to see it, and I do want to prove to, part of it is I do want to prove to other people that I can, do stuff that they may not be able to imagine me doing. that is kind of the exciting part of it, you know. I think the whole thing that's most exciting about acting is surprising yourself.
Yeah.
Micro and macro level. Like in every take, you want to do something where you're like, oh, I didn't think that was going to happen. Bless you. Like that.
It's in the
See
moment.
that?
Always in the moment.
Always in the moment. You got to react, you know. That's what acting is.
But it is startling to look. You're talking about like these two major shifts that you've done in the last 5-6 years. Obviously, kind of remaking yourself and becoming this kind of leading man person in Big Sick, but then transforming your body for Eternals, etc. And now this. It does feel like you're, I don't know, you're setting a very high bar for yourself in transformations. You can't keep up. You can't. First on the.
I'm playing a horse in the next one.
Oh, amazing.
I'm
Mocap.
joking. Yeah, mocap. I'm joking.
Would you want to do the next Avatar? I just saw Avatar. I know you're jealous, being a nerd like me.
Yeah, I'm seeing it on Monday. I'm so excited. I cannot wait.
Would you do performance capture? Is that intriguing?
I would definitely. I've done some video game performance capture.
Okay.
I wouldn't do that again because it kind of ruined those games for me.
Now you're just seeing people like yourself with balls on their head when
Yeah,
you're
and I mostly like, you know, I'll watch a movie I'm in, but that's like 2 hours. I'll watch a show that's 40 minutes a week. But if I'm playing a video game that's 50 hours, that's a long time to spend with yourself. I play video games to get away from myself.
Right.
Right. And now suddenly this orc fucking sounds like me too. This is a nightmare. I also found that video game acting is a specific skill, and there are many, many other people much better than me at it, and I think that they deserve that work and not me.
Here's what my passing thought when we were talking about kind of the evolving career. I listened back to our conversation. The last time we did the podcast was 2017 when The Big Sick was out, and it feels like you manifested everything that's happened in the last 5 years. I'm sure it wasn't just in our conversation, but you talked about wanting to do an action movie. Stuber came. You wanted to play a superhero. Eternals came. You talked about wanting to be in Star Wars. Obi-Wan came.
Did I really?
Yeah.
Oh my God. What else did I say in that interview? I want to start preparing.
That's about it. Yeah, exactly. I guess my question is like, is that how your brain operates? Are you goal driven? Are you like right now beyond playing a horse setting the next goals for yourself?
Since I was a little kid, when I first rode a horse, I was like, I wish someone was riding me. It's a weird way to put it.
Wait a second. It's weird that you mentioned the horse. I noticed on IMDb, the one trivia, it says that you were afraid of horses.
Yeah, that's not really true. I'm only as afraid of horses as every rational human being is afraid of horses. It's like a car that has a brain. They're horrifying. You know, I used to. Honestly, that's sort of, I would say, what happened with Eternals, where I was like, I sort of set a goal for myself a couple years before Eternals happened, where I was like, I want to play a superhero. So I'm going to do everything I can to put myself in a position to be able to do that. So I'd gotten a couple opportunities to audition for other parts in Marvel movies and stuff, not playing superheroes. And I didn't do those auditions because I was like, I want to put myself in the best position to be able to do this. I have to bet on myself.
And were those the kind of roles that I would expect, like the wisecracking person in the lab or the like that?
Yeah,
kind of
it's the guy that Captain America goes to be like, I don't know how to use a computer. And don't worry, Kumail's got you.
I got you. Yeah. Yeah.
He knows what all these buttons do. And so for a while, I really was like that. And honestly, now, what I'm trying to do is honestly not be as goal-oriented. Just sort of try and be like more in the moment and see what comes my way and see what feels most exciting to me in the moment. I think sometimes like looking forward too much or like trying to get something prevents you from being here right now. And Emily's back there going, what a bunch of horse shit. You're not so good at being
Liar! Yeah.
But I'm trying, honey, I'm trying. And so that's what I'm trying to do more is just sort of be more present and be like, whatever comes my way, that would be great.
I don't think it's a big spoiler to say, I think later in the show, you cry in an episode. Is this your first time crying on screen?
Yeah, I think so.
Is that a big deal for an actor? Was it a big deal for you to like know that day I'm gonna have to incredibly cry?
That's a good question. for me, I sort of read I listened to a lot of podcasts with actors I look up to, and heard them talk about emotional scenes a lot. There's an actor called Chukwudi Iwuji, who's one of the best actors. He's going to be, he's the bad guy in Guardians 3 coming up. He's just a really tremendous actor. He was in Peacemaker. And he said the same thing to me, which is what you have to do. Like, if there's a scene where you're like, oh, you have to cry, don't think of it like that. You can't say, I have to cry in this scene. You just have to be present and see what happens. Take away the obligation to hit any emotional anything in a scene. All you have to do is be truthful and present. Because sometimes, when you're sad, you start laughing. Like, weird stuff happens. And so in those scenes, that scene where I cried, this is weird to talk about, I didn't really plan on doing it. I didn't really feel like I was going to do it, whatever. But there was one scene in particular with my mom where I'm on the phone with her, where whenever I read that scene, I would start getting emotional. And so every single scene on the show, other than 2 scenes, every single scene, I really prepare the scenes. I work on them a lot. I work on them with my acting teacher. I rehearse. I know all the beats. And then when I go there, I try and forget it all and just look at the person, react to them, and just see what happens, right? But that scene, anytime I read it, I got so emotional that I decided I would not prepare that scene at all. And I would just go and just do it and see what happens. And when I got to set that day, when I got to the makeup trailer, I was reading the scene and I was getting really emotional just reading the scene. I don't know what was happening. So much so that I couldn't memorize the words, because every time I looked at it, I would get emotional. I didn't want to spend that emotion. So I went to the director, who's Nisha Ganatra, who's amazing. She does episodes 5 and 6. And I asked the other actor, I was like, is it okay if we get my coverage first, get me on camera first? Because I don't know if I can control this, whatever happens. And so that's what we did. It just sort of happened, It took a couple takes just to get the words right, because even memorizing the words was too emotional for me. So it's a long answer, but really, I just try and take the obligation away to feel anything during a scene and hope that whatever happens is real.
And that's a scene, again, without revealing too much, about trying to find approval from your parents, and Steve is just going the wrong path. He cannot do it. And I was going to ask a lot of questions about your growing up and your parents, and maybe it's more or less awkward now having your parents here.
It's more awkward.
Yeah, it definitely is. But sorry, it's on the card. I have to ask it. But no, I mean, is that something you relate to? Was that something that you felt you were in growing up? You were seeking approval of your parents desperately, and were they eager to give that approval, or was that something took a while to kind of get to?
I would say I was eager to seek approval of my parents, but they were also not stingy with approval. Like, genuinely, even if they weren't here, I would be saying this. I truly had, they were absolutely wonderful, perfect, very loving parents. They know. I'm getting emotional again. But still, I wanted to, for me, since I was a little kid, it was very important to me that I got really good grades, and that really wasn't just approval of my parents, that was approval of everyone around me, the extended family, everybody. So yeah, it's still a problem I have where I think I work too much to get approval of other people, and I really want to just have that within myself, just make myself proud of myself rather than try and get other people's approval. It's hard. And I think part of it's hard because that's a pattern I've had my whole life since I was a little kid. I wanted to get good grades to get my parents' approval, everybody else's approval. And then when you become a stand-up, it's really all about external feedback. If they laugh, you're good at your job. If they don't laugh, you're not good at your job. Right. So that just reinforced my sort of feedback mechanism, right? And then now, doing more dramatic work, you realize you don't have that instant feedback. So you really, really have to trust yourself and your own instincts in a way that you don't really have to when you're getting people's feedback in real time. And so that's been the biggest adjustment for me in doing this, is the only gauge I have is, did that feel real to me? Did that feel truthful to me? And having to trust that, having to trust myself rather than what other people are telling me, it's still hard.
It's rewiring your brain of like how to like find happiness and contentment. Like, wait, I can't look to the audience for smile and laughter. I have to find it within myself, and that's a journey.
Yeah, I feel like it's a lifelong journey. I don't know how. Does anybody here have it figured out? Anybody raise your hand? We can get a third mic. It's something Emily and I actually talk about a lot, where she says, like, I think you give too much power to other people.
Yeah. I don't want to harp too much on the physical transformation, because I know you've talked very openly about how, yes, it was great and you're happy you did it and it's fantastic in many respects, but also it had some weird stuff associated with it too, given how people treated you differently in the wake of it.
Always ask me about it, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just getting that out of the way because people,
Yeah.
But here's my question related to it, because you signed on to Eternals before that transformation happens, yes?
Yeah, like a year. I was signed on to Eternals months and months and months before it got announced. So me, Emily, knew about that for like 8 months before the news came out. Wow. So I knew for a long time I was going to do that movie.
Does Marvel give you any kind of like guideline? Like you have to be in Chris Pratt Guardians shape? Like, do they give you a photo and be like that? Like, what's the...
They give you a Ken doll, and they say, we're going to check in 6 months.
Yeah.
You got to be 80% of the way here.
Yeah. Remove your genitalia like the Ken doll.
Yes. My parents are here, Josh. They actually, this is completely true, they did not put any pressure on me to do anything. It completely came from me. They did not want me to, they honestly were like, we don't want you to do anything to change how you look or anything. We hired you because we hired you. We want you. So that really was just me. Honestly, I've been looking for an excuse my entire life to do something like that. And Emily thinks I signed on to that movie just so I could do that.
I mean, it's a nice byproduct, I guess.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
We actually, before we get to Eternals, let's talk a little about The Big Sick, which obviously changed your career in many, arguably more even than Eternals, I would argue. This is a remarkable piece of work. You were nominated for an Oscar. It, of course, for those that don't know, it is loosely or not so loosely based on your own experiences, Emily, and your experiences. Talk to me a little bit about, in retrospect now, like that is like the paper of record. That is the official record in a way of a very pivotal life event in your lives. Is that odd? And did that feel like a pressure at the time? Like, wait a second, this is how people are going to know our story.
Well, I did feel a lot of pressure filming The Big Sick, because it was the first time I'd done anything that wasn't like completely 100% comedic, because Big Sick is a comedy, but there were emotional moments in it. So I felt a lot of pressure that I put on myself, because I felt like I owed Emily, telling our story. I have to do a good job acting in this thing. I felt like I owed Mike and Judd and the people who put in the money and all this stuff who really like bet on us to be able to do it. It's a very low budget movie, but it's still a lot of money for just. Yeah. So I felt a lot of pressure. I kind of, now that I look back on it, I feel like I was like low-level panicking almost the entire shoot. There's a scene towards the end of the movie, Emily will corroborate this. There's a scene, we shot that movie in like 23 days, which is very, very quick. The last scene of the movie is I'm doing stand-up in New York. I've moved to New York, and Emily, played by Zoe Kazan, heckles me in the audience. Right. And we have this little exchange, and that's the last scene of the movie, And I really loved that scene. I really loved that ending. And so we were at Union Hall, which is a venue here in Brooklyn, in Park Slope, I think, where I used to perform. So it's a stage, and then on the side, there's a little room with like a curtain, and that's the backstage. And I was there in backstage on my own, and I kind of started freaking out. Like, I was like, what if I ruin the scene? This is the end of the movie. The whole movie doesn't work if I don't do the scene right. So I'm like on the phone with my acting teacher. I'm really genuinely freaking out. One of the producers came in to talk to me. I do not remember that conversation at all. But I could tell that they were like slowly escalating it. Every 2 or 3 minutes, someone else would come like, "Hey, buddy, how's it going?"
Send someone else in to talk to Kumail.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. Mike came, Barry, producer came, and then bringing the big guns, Emily came. And Emily said, I opened the curtain, and you were like just looking, staring right into an oscillating fan that was an inch from your face. I was just like staring into a fan, like this close to my face. Emily, is that right? I guess she went home. She's back here. Emily, are you here? I'm here. Did that happen? 100%. And so
Our fact checker, Emily Gordon, everybody.
yeah. So yes, I felt that pressure, but I did not feel that pressure. I did not ever really think about, it was just pressure I put on myself. I never thought that anybody would watch that movie. I hadn't thought that far ahead. I genuinely hadn't. And when we were sitting at Sundance and it was going to play like the first screening, and Emily turned to me and said, "This is the last time this story is going to be our story." Yeah. And that's when it hit me. I was like, oh, right. Other people are going to watch this if things go well. And I'd never considered that. So I think if I thought of it as, the record of that
Personal moment, that would have been too
yeah,
much,
I think that would have been too much to take on because already it felt like a lot. That was the difference between that and Chippendales. I felt like I was able to really enjoy the entire process, even though it's sort of a descent into darkness of this character. I really was able to enjoy the whole thing and be really present for it and learn from all the other actors I was working with. That was a big thing. It took me a long time to figure out how to do that.
Before we move on, let's take a look at a clip from The Big Sick. This is a great scene between you and Zoe Kazan. Okay, let's take a look.
It's a very intense scene.
It was intense. Is that what you're like in an argument? Is that an accurate depiction of Kumail?
Emily?
Emily?
Emily actually said it was hard to watch shooting that.
Accurate,
hear
she
that?
says. Yep.
We kind of did base it on real stuff, so that there's we were like, how many lines can we cross in this argument? And that, Emily was a practicing therapist, and that thing of like, shouldn't you be handling this better? That was one of those things where you're like, oh, can't ever say that in a fight, you can't take that back. Let's not ask Emily if it ever got there. But Emily said she had a hard time watching it because she could see your fighting moves. Yeah, that was like a very intense day of shooting. That was very. Looking back, it was like a really hot room, and Zoe's so good in it, huh? She's so good.
Let's talk a little more. I mean, I have to talk to you a little bit about some of the geek stuff. Let's talk a little bit about Eternals, because that was such a great opportunity. You were so fantastic in that film. And as you said, you were training for it for basically 40 years. And it must have felt amazing to be in that costume, like playing dress up on that level with Chloe Zhao.
Yeah.
I guess, talk to me like the postmortem for you on that, because you know what comic book fans are like. And sure, it made a ton of money, but then there was it was divisive for some. Did that bum you out that it didn't get maybe the rapturous reception you wanted it to have?
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
It would have been great to not have that thing, where Emily says, like, you have to have more fuck you about all this. Like, fuck you, this is good, I love it. Right. I love Eternals. I think it's fantastic. It did bum me out that it was sort of divisive. I think it's a very, very, Chloe made a very, very ambitious, huge movie that's very different from most comic book movies. She set up, she went for a really, really high bar. Of course, it would have been great if every single person on Earth loved it, but I love it, and I still think at some point people are gonna rewatch that movie and realize that there's a lot more to it than they gave it credit for. I love Chloe. She's such such a great filmmaker.
When you shot the film, like, because I was going to say Marvel, I'm not going to say that. I'm always astounded by the actors in these films that don't know some of the surprises. Like Zoe Saldana's talked about how she's only seen parts of scripts when she's shot films. Like, for instance, did you know Harry Styles was in the movie when you shot that movie?
I started hearing rumblings of it here and there, and I thought it was bullshit. I was like, the guy from One Direction? No way. And then you show up to work one day, and there's gorgeous Harry Styles. Hey, mate. I'm like, hey, what are you doing here, man? We actually shot a different scene with Harry Styles, because the ending now, my character's not in that scene, but we shot a version where I was with him, and it was a different sort of post-credit sequence.
What was the dynamic between Kingo and Harry's character?
We didn't really talk. Okay. We just sort of like made eyes at each other from afar. No, it was sort of, I don't know if I'm allowed to say.
You're in it now, man. It's too late.
You're gonna get me in trouble. No, it was a completely different. And how many people saw Eternals? This is another. Oh wow, most people saw it. Okay.
Yeah. And as of this now, you know nothing about the future. Do you like make appeals like, hey Kevin, you're a writer, like you know comics, you're a screenwriter. You could make a pitch and say, here's what I think my character should do next.
I haven't done it. I should have done it. I genuinely do not know if my character is going to come back at all. I would love to come back and do it, but I genuinely don't know.
I believe you.
Yeah. It sucks. I would love to go back and do it again.
I felt like I lived vicariously through you when I saw you in Obi-Wan. It was just amazing to see you in that world. Almost a Jedi, so close to being a Jedi.
So close to being a Jedi.
But you kind of have the best of all possible worlds in a way. You get to kind of act like a Jedi, and then you get to have a little fun. Jedis can't have fun. That's off
but what if I was a real Jedi who also had fun? Why couldn't I be that? Why did it have to be a liar?
Right. What was it? Give me a sense. Being on set, not only just being on a Star Wars set, but being in the Jedi robes opposite Ewan frickin' McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi.
It's really, really overwhelming. Every single moment of that, I sort of had to like, like we were talking about the big sick. If you realize what the responsibility is, it sort of paralyzes you. And that's how this was. I had to, I wore the Jedi robes the first time. In a mirror, took a secret picture. I wasn't allowed to do that. Sent it to Emily, and then you have to forget that you're wearing Jedi robes. You just have to be like, oh, this is just a random scene I'm doing. But it really feels like fucking Star Wars in here. Like everybody's got sabers and blasters. It becomes very hard to ignore, And I remember my first scene, actually my second scene, it was the same day. I shot a scene, and then my second scene was with Obi-Wan, was with Ewan McGregor, and I'd hung out with him, back there and talked to him, and he was really great and cool. And they yelled action, and he walks up to me, and he starts talking, and he does the Obi-Wan voice. And that was when I was like, oh, this is impossible to ignore.
This is my greatest acting challenge. I have to play it cool opposite Ewan as Obi-Wan.
This is Obi-Wan, yeah. And so I kind of tried to use it, where once he finds out that he's a real Jedi, that it's Obi-Wan, he's sort of a little bit in love with him, sort of like really looks up to him, is really intimidated by him. And that was all stuff that came very naturally to me. Not much acting required.
So you probably have a few action figures by now.
Yes.
From the Star Wars and Marvel universe?
I don't have a Star Wars one yet. Yeah, I don't know.
You will. I mean, they've made as you well know, every single character that's ever appeared.
Yeah, it's like that guy in the background with like a flute face has an action figure and I don't.
Yeah.
I have lines. I'm in multiple episodes.
Well.
That hasn't happened yet, but I do have a Eternals action figure. And I have Lego of a few things.
Funkos galore, I'm sure.
I've got a lot of Funkos, yeah. And I have all of them, yeah. But I always, wanted an action figure, so it's great. Like my Eternals action figure really looks like me. It's awesome.
So have you ever look? You co-wrote Big Sick. Have you ever taken a stab at like a genre property in terms of writing? Like, have you? I could see you writing a Marvel or Star Wars property. Like, that doesn't seem incongruous with who you are and your skill set.
Oh, thank you. Haven't done that. Emily and I have a script we wrote that's a sci-fi movie. That's something we came up with. It's not an existing IP, but it is sci-fi, and we've sold it. We hopefully get to make it. We're sort of waiting to hear. And then we have another thing we adapted. And do you know who Edward Gorey is?
Yes.
He's a cartoonist. He makes these really awesome, cool, dark. So he has this like story that's only 9 pages long with like no dialogue, and Emily and I have adapted that. And again, we're hoping to get that made, but we haven't done anything like that Star Wars or Marvel or DC or anything big like that. I'd love to, but I'd love to tackle something, do you know DC Comics?
I mean, broad strokes, but test
Do
me.
you know
What
who Ambush Bug is?
Nope.
Okay, well, I want to do an Ambush Bug movie.
Tell me more about Ambush Bug. Why?
He's like this news reporter guy. He's weird. He's just like, it's because there's no pressure on it, You don't know. If I do Superman, everybody's got a different idea of Superman. If it doesn't match up, they're upset. Ambush Bug, nobody cares about.
Someone out there would be pissed if you screw up Ambush Bug.
And that guy will be really scary.
Is this a vehicle for you? Are you Ambush Bug?
No. No. It's CG. He looks like a monster.
Oh, I see.
I don't want to be in that suit. But I just did sign on to play another superhero.
Stop it.
I did. I'm playing Dolphin Man.
That's an inside joke. That's amazing. Props to Mike Ryan, a mutual friend.
Mutual friend of ours said, mention Dolphin Man on stage and only he will laugh. It'll be funny because of how awkward it'll be.
I'm so sorry to all
What
of
is the
you.
joke? I don't even know it.
I think we were just talking about just like how absurd superheroes are. Like there is an Ambush Bug and there should be a Dolphin Man, and it's wasted on everybody, and I apologize. Where in the stack of accomplishments does appearing on the X-Files stand in your resume?
Pretty high. Again, you try, and X-Files is my favorite show of all time, and I got to do an episode of it with my favorite writer of the X-Files. And again, I was like, this is just a job. I'm just acting job, do it. And when I got to Vancouver where we were shooting, the driver came and gave me a folder for like all the information about my hotel and all that, and it had the truth is out there on it, and that's when I started freaking out, and I called Emily, and I was like, Emily, talk me down. I don't think I could do this. And then again,
I need an oscillating fan to stick my head into.
Exactly. Where's the oscillating fan? And the first scene was with Mulder and Scully. Again, that was really terrifying. But, I do have a regret about that. I felt like I wish I could do that again because I love, hanging out with those two, and it was great. But I felt like my performance in that, specifically, I felt like I was too scared and I was too rigid. And I was like stuck in my preparation for it. Right. Like, I've learned to forget everything and just sort of be in the moment. And with that, I think I was just trying to recreate some version of the scene that I had prepared, a couple of weeks ago. So it's such a great episode. Reese Darby's in it, and he's so good in it. I just wish I wish I'd done a better job.
Let's look at the clip. No, I don't have the clip.
Oh, thank you. I mean, nobody would maybe even be able to tell, but I just know that I felt when I was shooting it, I didn't feel, fluid.
What should they do with the X-Files at this point? They keep trying to bring it back. And
put me in it. I'll fix it.
Is it Mulder and Scully dependent? Because they're so key to it. What would you do if you were given the reins to the X-Files?
I would be Mulder. And Gillian Anderson would be Scully. David Duchovny can go fuck himself. I think that there's more X-Files possible. I mean, those two are such the DNA of it, and I think their chemistry was so magical. And that thing of like the believer and the non-believer. But they're both interesting. The characters are so interesting because she's a believer about some things and not about others. So she's very religious. She has faith. but her faith means she doesn't have, but her faith in science means she doesn't believe all the stuff that he believes. And he's not a religious person at all, so he has no faith there. But then he has faith in the existence of aliens. So it's such a weird crisscross of it. But it's those two that really, bring that. Their chemistry is so good. So I think anything that you do with X-Files has such a high bar to leap over. I don't know if those two want to do it again.
Right. Talking about high bar, I know you and Emily do the Lord of the Rings rewatch every holiday season.
Yeah, we're about to start.
Are you?
Yeah, we are.
Extended edition or bust?
Of course.
Just checking.
That's the only version that exists.
Well, not technically, that's not true, actually.
Please.
Okay.
I honestly, I think the extended edition is shit on the theatrical. I mean, I love the theatrical, but you gotta watch the whole thing.
Right.
I mean, if you don't want Faramir's whole story with Theoden and Boromir, if you don't want, wow.
And that's when he lost the audience.
I feel like I'm speaking in Urdu.
Where are you at on the Hobbit films?
We don't rewatch them every year.
Okay, but you're okay, but they are what they are. Okay.
I love the Rings of Power, the new
That's what I was going to
series.
ask.
I thought it was absolutely fantastic.
What a
The Amazon
challenge
show.
for them to figure that out. I mean, that's crazy.
I think they really did a great job.
Yeah.
I think those actors are so good. If you guys are Lord of the Rings people and you haven't seen the Rings of Power on Amazon, go watch it. It's so good. I talk about because that and Game of Thrones were on at the same time. The House of the Dragon, I loved them both, but they were so different.
Oh, yeah.
The Rings of Power was so pure. Like, it'll have a long conversation with two grown men deciding how they can be better friends to each other. And then House of the Dragon is like, should I marry this 12-year-old? It'd be so good for the houses, and we get all her ships. That'd be great for trade. That's the difference between those two shows. I love them both.
Is there a stand-up set in that body now? Like, is there, if someone said, you've got 20 minutes...
Right now?
I'm not going to make you do... I mean, if you want to, you can, but...
I have to talk to people and do crowd work. I feel comfortable enough on stage to do that, but I don't have material to go to. I haven't written stand-up in, over 2 years.
So is that something you think you'll return to, or does it feel like you don't need... It doesn't fulfill the need that it once did?
That is true. So there's two answers to it. Once I started being able to getting opportunities to act and write and stuff, that was so creatively fulfilling and also exhausting that I didn't also want to go out at night and perform till midnight. I like being home with Emily and watching movies and playing video games because I do feel creatively very fulfilled. However, the juice that you get from doing stand-up when it's going well, there's really nothing like it. It's so exciting. But I haven't really, it's the thing that falls away if you get cast in something because that's on a schedule. So I think I won't be able to do it next year. So I want to go back to it, but it's going to be a while. It may be, 2024 at the earliest.
I have a potential job proposition for you, okay?
Yes.
I'm Mr. Academy Awards. I'm calling up Kumail Nanjiani. Are you interested in hosting our show? Again, very few people have the skill set.
What's your show? The Academy Awards?
Yeah, sorry. I didn't set
or
that
are
up.
you putting together another show? We have an open mic in the back of a bar.
No. Let me start over.
Meryl Streep will be there, weirdly.
Let me rephrase. Kumail, do you have any interest in ever hosting the Academy Awards?
Yes. I would love to host the Academy Awards. I used to watch with my dad. I watched Academy Awards my entire life. There were some years I watched over and over the year that Dances with Wolves won.
Yes.
I watched it over and over. I know random movies. There's a movie called Milagro Beanfield War that was nominated for an Academy Award at one point.
Robert Redford directed it. Huh?
Did he?
Yeah.
I've watched the Academy Awards my entire life, and I would love to host.
It's just interesting because I hear a lot of people say it's a no-win proposition. You've seen some of the best ever, Letterman, who frankly I thought way back when did a decent job hosting. I will say.
Yeah, he did great.
But it's hard to please the the masses.
They do say there's no way to win doing it, but there's two different things, right? There are things you do for your career, and there's things you do for you.
Yeah.
There's things you do for, like, would I be able to look at 12-year-old me and be like, I didn't want to host the Academy Awards? Mr. Academy Awards himself asked me, and I said no. Would I be able to say that to that kid?
Right.
No.
Right.
So I would have to do it, even if it like hurts my career for 3 years, just to be able to be like, hey, I hosted the Academy Awards.
I like how you really went there. You were looking at 12-year-old self.
I really saw myself. Yeah. And I saw what my 12-year-old self was saying, which was, what are you doing here, weird man? Get out of here. Get out of my house. Milagro Beanfield War is on.
Very unique taste.
Yeah.
Very unique.
Yeah.
I think we have some audience questions. Can I grab the audience questions? And while that comes out, thank you. I asked you for a comfort movie. I don't know if you remember this. I'm always curious what people consider their comfort movies.
Yeah.
And you went with a 90s classic.
Yes.
What did you choose?
4 Weddings and a Funeral.
All right. Tell us, yeah.
It's an absolutely amazing movie. Hugh Grant is amazing in it. Emily and I, when we first got married, like our marriage license, we went, we got it in Chicago at like the courthouse, you know? Mm-hmm. And then that day, we came home and watched 4 Weddings and a Funeral. I've just seen that movie so many times. I know every line of that movie. It just makes me feel great.
Do you appreciate now, having been in the business and acted as much as you have, like how Hugh Grant makes it look so easy? Like that's...
Yes, making it look that easy takes a lot of work. It's really hard. And honestly, when I first started doing stand-up, now when I look back at it, I was doing a Hugh Grant impression for the first 5 or 6 years. I really was. I was sort of like I was like... I couldn't finish a sentence. Like it was like my own terrible impression of Hugh Grant. I realized years later. So if it wasn't for 4 Weddings and a Funeral, I wouldn't have been a stand-up.
Amazing. Is there an actor, like whether it's a Hugh Grant or someone like him of that ilk, or or someone that's just coming up now, that would be hard to pass on the opportunity to act against, just simply based on their name, simply based on what they bring to the table and just the prospect of being in a scene with them?
Oh, I mean, you mean like a legendary actor?
It doesn't have to be. I'm saying like, it could be Tom Hardy. It could be Timothy Chalamet. I don't know. It could be whatever.
Huh. I mean, I would love to work with either of those two.
We'll make that happen. Okay.
I do know Timothy Chalamet a little bit.
You do?
Yeah, I've never met Tom Hardy.
I feel like you two would get along.
Me and Tom Hardy?
Yeah, I've always thought that. You're cut from the same cloth.
Why is that funny?
No,
why couldn't you even finish that sentence?
No, it's more a compliment to you, and I don't want to
Oh,
say something.
here you go.
No.
Let's see you wriggle out of this one.
He's
Horowitz.
You're so affable and easy to talk to, and Tom is a little removed. I mean, he's so talented. I'm not going to make eye contact with you. I'm just going to keep talking until you interject. Help me. Let's go to an audience question.
I'm not going to be the one to help you here. Let me think. Who would it be? Who would?
I want to go back to Timmy. How do you know Timothy Chalamet? What do you guys do for fun together?
Nothing. But we would, when Big Sick and Call Me By Your Name came out around the same time, so we were sort of doing the festival thing, and we would like run into each other and hang out. He's awesome.
You didn't drop the Armie Hammer reference. You just went right to Timothy Chalamet.
Is this podcast edited? Is it not edited?
We're live.
Oh my God. Who would I love to act with? I mean, Hugh Grant. I'd love to do. Yeah. I would love to act with Hugh Grant. I think he's like done such great work recently. Have you seen the Paddington movies? He's so good in it.
Yes. There's another surprise cameo. We were talking about a movie backstage that's coming out soon. You'll see Hugh Grant in. Remember the movie we just saw in L.A.?
Which one?
I saw you in L.A. We talked about it backstage. There's a great movie. It's a mysterious movie.
Mysterious movie?
Oh, my God.
Oh, yes. Great movie. Glass Onion is a great movie.
Why are we ruining the cameo now? We do have to. Now we do have to edit the podcast.
Do we?
I guess we'll have to.
Okay. All right. Sorry, everybody. It is a great movie. Yes, that's a great movie.
All right, some audience questions. We talked about this a little bit, but let's elaborate. How has your role in Chippendales expanded your acting skill repertoire in dramatic roles? Like, what do you feel like you are able to do now, coming off of this, that you would feel more confident in doing?
It's just, I think a lot of stuff. It's hard to articulate. There was a script that I read right before Chippendales. It's a movie that I'm going to do now. I'm going to do it next year. And when I read it, I was like, the script is so good, I have to do it. However, there are all these like scenes in this script that I'm really intimidated by. I have to figure out how to do them. And then I read the script again after doing Chippendales, and I wasn't intimidated by any of those scenes, which is it's a really wonderful feeling. I think I've gotten a little bit better at not being so rigid about what I think a scene should be. You know, sometimes you like try and recreate it and choke the life out of it. I feel like I've gotten a little bit better at just trusting myself and going wherever the scene is going. I think I've gotten better at really reacting to the other characters. And you know, I learned so much from working with the actors in this. You guys saw Murray. But you know, in the next episode, Juliette Lewis shows up, Annalee Ashford shows up, and Robin De Jesus, Andrew Reynolds, and these are like the best actors I've ever worked with. Yeah. And I learned so much from doing this with them. You know, honestly, I was scared to do Chippendales, and now I honestly can't wait to do the next thing that scares me.
That's huge. Did being an EP change the way you approach the show? You and Emily are executive producers on the show.
Yeah.
How does that manifest? Like, how much are you involved in casting, the whole process? Like, what was it like?
Yeah, and Rob, who's the creator of the show, was very, very collaborative and very kind. So we got to be involved in every stage of the process with casting. You know, I was there in some of the auditions, reading with some of the other actors. And then for me, the most fun part of it, and he was also very, he would ask me questions about the character, whether Steve would react a certain way or not. I had certain things that I was like, I think we should put in a thing where Steve does this, and he was fantastic about that. And then I love being involved in editing. That's like my favorite part of the process. So being able to like have input in that, and Rob is also very good at editing, and Jenny Connor, one of our other showrunners, so. She was sort of, I think she took the lead during the edit because we had to edit as we were shooting. But to me, editing is my favorite part of it. So that, you know, watching editing, I think, makes me better at acting, and it makes you better at writing. I think because you see what works, what doesn't, that kind of stuff. You know, because sometimes this happened in Big Sick while we were editing. I was like, oh, let's pick. There's one take where I was like, oh, I really felt it during that take. Let's use it. And then I watched it, it felt like too much. And then the take where I just said the words was way better and way more present. So like you get those kinds of lessons, you know, that sometimes just being there and just saying it is way better than trying to conjure up emotion, you know.
I've heard that story so much from actors talking about some of the greatest actors on the planet where they're like, it didn't seem like that guy was doing anything on set. And then you see the finished product, it's like, it's enough, it's all there.
So much going on, you know. That's how Martin Starr is. He was in Silicon Valley. And because he's so subtle, you sort of act with him, and it feels like there's like he's just so like inside of himself. But then you watch him on screen, and there's just so much going on. He's always thinking.
Allison has an excellent question. Do you prefer Steve's business suits or Kingo's super suit in the Eternals? Which wardrobe would you rather?
Like to just go to Starbucks?
Yeah, just your day to day.
Kingo's super suit. Yeah, I mean, I can't think of a single situation where that wouldn't trump the horrible suits I wear on this show. By the way, those suits are amazing for the character. Peggy Schnitzer was our costume designer, and when I walked out of my first fitting, was the first time I really like felt like Steve.
The suit, the glasses. That's
the suit, the glasses,
right
the hair. Yep. You know, all that. Yeah, that super suit is awesome.
I love that you talked about Steve. I heard you in another conversation. This is so you comparing the way you moved to RoboCop.
Yes, he is. He's only slightly.
Now I can't unsee that.
Slightly less cool than RoboCop. But yeah, and I didn't realize it until a little bit into it before I started shooting, where I was like, how should he? And I was like, oh, it's RoboCop. He's like RoboCop.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's just uncomfortable in his own skin, just rigid.
Exactly.
Right? Just...
Exactly. Yeah, he's RoboCop before RoboCop has like the thing to take this half mask off.
Right.
Looks terrible without it. Put that thing back on.
I mean, don't tempt me with 45 minutes of a discussion about RoboCop, because I will go there.
One of the greatest movies ever made.
It really is.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite memory from filming?
From any filming?
Let's talk. I think they mean Welcome to Chippendales.
Oh, Welcome to Chippendales. Yeah. Towards the end of it, episode 8, actually, there's a long 15-page scene that Rob wrote that's absolutely amazing, but it's really me and Robin DeJesus, who plays Ray, who you haven't met yet. It's just the two of us in a hotel room talking for 15 minutes, but there's so much movement in that scene, so much happens, it's so up and down, it's so intense. We shot one scene over 3 days. It really felt like I was in the soup, like you go home, you sleep, you wake up, you go back, you continue that scene. It was just so exciting and fun. It really felt, like every part of my body was in that scene for 3 full days. So that feeling, I think, was really, really exciting to really like live that, and to really and he's such a good actor, and Richard Shepard directed that episode, and he was so good at just finding shape to that scene. So I've never done anything like that. Usually you shoot 4 scenes a day, but to shoot 1 scene for 3 days, there's nothing like it.
So we talked about manifesting stuff a few years ago. What have we done here today? You're going to host the Oscars in the next 5 years, apparently.
Yeah, sure. I would love that. If that happens, oh my God. I'm going to send you a fruit basket. You know the things where the fruits look like flowers?
Yeah, amazing, yeah.
Like a fruit bouquet?
Wow, this is all worth it.
What is it called? Edible arrangement.
There it is.
All of you will get a fruit basket.
You get an edible arrangement. You get...
If I host the Oscars in the next 5 years.
Honestly, congratulations on the show. It's as you all can attest. I mean, it only gets richer and more. It's an unpredictable story, and it will suck you in if it hasn't already. Spread the good word of Welcome to Chippendales, and let's give one more big round of applause to our guest today, Kumail Nanjiani.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Thank you. Appreciate it.